Hey everybody, Eric Richards here. I'm grateful for Mark. He asked me to share a couple of ideas for teaching Ephesians this week and come follow me. And we had a pretty good experience yesterday as a family and wanted to share a few ideas on what we did. Chapter 1, we focused in on two doctrines, one about the pre-earth life and a second about predestination versus foreordination. The question I love, we asked our kids, if you could go and look back at your pre-earth life, look through the veil, what would you love to learn about yourself? And that was a fascinating conversation for us to have with them. If you want a good conversation to have with your youth or young adults, just talk about the pre-earth life, what skills, talents they developed, what their interests might have been. We made a little plug for patriarchal blessings. Two of our children don't have theirs yet. And so just to plant some seeds about the importance and the blessing of receiving a patriarchal blessing. This is in verses 4, 9, and 10 there in chapter 1 in Ephesians about the predestination, foreordination. So that was a good conversation, easy way to launch in this week with the book of Ephesians. In chapter 2, look here at my notes. My favorite phrase is in verse 10. It talks about how we're the workmanship of God's hands. The word workmanship in the Greek, the term is poema. It's the same word that we use in English for poem. When you think of how a poem is created, obviously there's a planning, there's a crafting, there's a staging. There's a lot of work that goes into a poem. Poems don't just happen. And so we are the same way. We are that poema or that workmanship of God. We weren't haphazardly created. We were created on purpose and for a purpose to fulfill different missions down here on earth. And it was fun to talk to our kids about some of the missions we saw them fulfilling and some of the dreams and desires we have for them and their life. Easy discussion to have. And if your kids aren't active, don't believe in the church, it's an easy principle to teach about different opportunities, different windows that are open for them in their lives, different doors that they'll have. Let's see here. We jumped then up to the classic verses, chapter 2 and 4, about the church and the structure. We talked about prophets and apostles and evangelists and teachers. We just asked our kids, how have those people helped you? How have they blessed you? How have you been blessed by bishops? We reminisced a little bit about our old bishops. And what about prophets and apostles? Again, great lead in the general conference this weekend. I told the story, and you might have read it. Fair Mormon did a great story about it, but it's called The 17 Points of the True Church. In essence, there's a group of men, and some of the details are a little bit fuzzy because the originator of the story has passed away. His daughter has corroborated on his story, but they got together, they studied the Bible, they tried to identify different points of the true church. They wrote them down on note cards, they often went to their separate ways, into the military and other places in the world. One of them wound up getting killed in combat, but the others wound up joining the LDS faith. And there's a story about this reunion. You can Google search, the 17 Points of True Church. You can Google search it. But it's kind of a remarkable story. Many of their points of the true church came from Ephesians 2 and 4, how the true church must have apostles and prophets, bear the name of Jesus Christ. They also had other things such as the true church would be a missionary church. By their fruits you shall know them. The true church would practice baptism for the dead, no paid clergy. There's 17 of these points that they came up with. So it's a great time to tell that story and review some of those 17 points. Two final thoughts here. Ephesians 4:29. I love this. Let no corrupt communication proceed out of your mouth. And boy, we do that. We say dumb things sometimes, things we should not to say. But the part I love about this passage is the next part. It says that when we speak good, that it ministers grace to the hearers and to the receivers. If you're like me, compliments are hard. Sometimes people say nice things about you and they do it to be kind. And if you're like me, you're quick to deflect. You're like, oh, no, thank you. Moving on, nothing to see here. We're very quick to kind of deflect those compliments. I had a student share this Ephesians 4:29 in a devotional a couple years back. And she said, when we deny compliments, it does a lot of damage. Number one, it tells the person that they're a liar. It also, again, based on this verse, it doesn't allow grace or the atonement to work in that person's life or in our life if we're receiving that compliment. It also says it administers grace to both the hearer and the receiver. We're both edified if we'll just accept the compliment. I thought that was so profound. So next time you're complimented, just say thank you. Thank you, thank you. We don't want to become, cocky or anything, but it's okay to accept compliments and okay to show gratitude when people are very kind to us. And on the other hand, if we say no and deflect and you're wrong, it causes really more harm than good. So I invite you, our little audience tonight, with this Come Follow Me Principle Challenge, that you accept compliments when they come. Just take a deep breath and say, thank you. That meant a lot to me. That really could do a lot for the person giving the compliment. One last thought here, chapter 5, we have this another semi-awkward chapter with the role of husbands and wives, men and women. Years ago at one of our trainings, I had a brother share some of the symbolism behind men or Adam, husbands, and also women, wives, or Mother Eve. If you look at some of Paul's teachings about men and women, and we know there's some cultural element to that, but there's something here that could be symbolic. Men, husbands, Adam, could be a symbol of flesh and the body. Women could be a symbol, I have that backwards. Men could be the symbol of the spirit. Women could be a symbol of the flesh or the body. So in chapter 5, and back to about 3 weeks ago, those troubling verses about women should be, keep silent in church. What he might be alluding to is that when we're at church, we should tell our bodies to not speak. We're here to edify our spirits. It's not good for a woman to rule over a man. It's not good for our flesh to rule over our spirit. Anyway, as you read Ephesians 5, especially kind of verses 22 to 29, keep that in mind. See if it helps. I'm sure that's not the full intent of his message. I know there's a cultural thing he's trying to teach and something very specific to this church in Ephesus, but look at it with that symbolism and see if it helps you synthesize some deeper principles maybe behind what the Apostle Paul was teaching. So anyway, I hope that's helpful. Those are, again, 4 or 5 things we taught this week in Come Follow Me at our house, and maybe it can help your house as well. I wish you the best of luck. I know that you can get revelation for your family and what principles your listeners need to hear from you. As you study and ask God what you should teach, I promise, he's going to speak to you. Best of luck as you go and teach. Good luck this week. Enjoy General Conference this weekend too. Bye-bye now.